Hi,
Hi.
Nimmi. Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Hope everyone's well.
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. You can just go ahead and get your screen share started up while I just tell the audience a little bit about the topic you're going to talk about and a little bit about you as well. So we have with us Nimmi Patel. She's going to be talking about gender balance within the sector, why it's vital, and what the UK is doing about it. A little bit about Nimmi. Nimmi is the policy manager for skills, talent, and diversity at techUK, the UK's leading tech trade association with over 830 members. She is committed to embedding diversity in the UK tech pipeline from classroom to the boardroom. Nimmi also holds techUK's immigration work, collaborating with techUK members and stakeholders to create an environment that attracts the best talent to the UK. Prior to joining the team, she worked for the UK Labour Party and New Zealand Labour Party and studied politics, philosophy, and economics at the University of Manchester. She is currently studying strategic communications at King's College London. With that, over to you, Nimmi.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and welcome to, I guess, the fantastic 3-day conference, which is in celebration of women in cybersecurity. It's really great to be a part of this virtual conference and hear incredible stories from people coming from such different backgrounds. Sort of like like Aditya mentioned, I'm Nimmi Patel. I work for techUK, which is a tech trade association. For those of you who don't know, it's sort of representing the digital sector in the UK. And we represent 850 companies from the global corporates of the world to smaller SMEs and startups and scale-ups. And I'm here to talk to you today about gender diversity and wider inclusion within the UK digital spaces. I think it follows on really nicely from the conversation and the talk that we just had about kind of strengthening your personal power, because gender diversity affects all of us, and I'm going to tell you why during this talk. The women currently make up 11% of the global cyber workforce, and only 15% of the digital workforce in the UK comes from a Black, Asian, or minority background, showing that there remains a severe lack of diversity in the cyber industry. You know, women make up 50% of the world, but just a very small portion of the global cyber workforce. And businesses are suffering a cybersecurity workforce gap of around 2.9 million employees today, according to latest estimates from ISC Squared, the world's leading cybersecurity professional organization. And what a skills gap means is that companies are crying out for great talent in cyber, because, as we know, the importance of cybersecurity, particularly during this pandemic, is growing and growing. So we need more people in the workforce, but we just can't find them. We can't find people with the right skill sets. So why is it that even though businesses are crying out for a skilled workforce, women and people from ethnic minorities or diverse backgrounds remained a largely untapped source of talent? By 2050, it's expected that there will be almost twice as many people over the age of 65 that there are age 15 in Europe. So we have a huge, ever shrinking talent gap, and a huge talent gap, a less talent pool to choose from. And it's vital that organizations make the most of the talent they do have. They simply can't unintentionally excluding anyone. So work is needed to break down the barriers to entry in the cybersecurity sector, a sector that is clearly thriving, but needs a skilled and diverse workforce to sustain it. Demand for cybersecurity professionals is growing, but we are clearly and currently failing to attract nearly 50% of the UK's workforce in the sector. So apart from the need for talent and closing those skills gaps that businesses are seeing, why does diversity matter so much in such a fast-paced industry? Developing more diverse work cultures isn't just the right thing to do, it's the right thing to do for a business and for the sector as a whole. Diversity breeds creativity. Ideas that originate from non-diverse teams often don't reflect market needs. A diverse team can more accurately understand and serve a variety of consumer bases and their requirements. So the statistic that I've got up there is that a Boston consulting study found that companies with more diverse management teams have 19% higher revenues due to innovation. And this particular finding is more significant for tech companies, startups, and industries where innovation is key to growth. Another statistic that I like to drop in there is that gender diverse companies are 45% more likely to improve market share and 70% more likely to successfully capture new markets. So we can clearly see that a diverse team can more accurately understand and serve a variety of consumer and customer bases. So by taking a proactive approach to developing diverse talent, organizations can take a step towards future-proofing their businesses against the cyber skill shortages that I mentioned earlier, which are becoming ever more increasingly prevalent. I think by encouraging women and those from diverse backgrounds to enter and thrive into the tech industry at all levels of seniority, we become more robust and we become more competitive and more innovative and, of course, inclusive. Why is that important? So for tech to work for everyone, those creating it must reflect the society it seeks to serve. So currently it doesn't. And what does that mean? It means that we are building products and services that aren't for everyone, products that may reinforce privilege and biases. I just finished reading Invisible Woman, which I've got a picture up on the slide, which is all about data bias and a world designed for men. In the book, Caroline spotlights the many ways in which a lack of diverse teams has led to products being designed badly, sometimes with fatal consequences. Take the seatbelt. When regulation was first introduced requiring seatbelts, the crash test dummies used to test the efficacy of the seatbelts being designed were based on the average man. And most commonly, the dummy that was used was 1.8 meters tall and weighed something like 76 kg, significantly taller and heavier than an average one. This meant that women got seriously hurt. It took until 2011, almost 60 years later since the invention, before female crash dummies were started to being used. And I can't help but think, if there were women at the table at the start of that conversation, or even throughout kind of the changing movements and the campaigns around people needing to wear their seatbelts, then we would have never ended up in that situation. And then there is the fact that if you don't have diverse perspectives around the table at every stage, from conception to design to creation, you end up with, at best, a suboptimal product. So it's no surprise that the first smartwatches didn't have female health tracking features. An all-male design team just didn't think about how useful a function would be to approximately half the population. And you know, that has since been rectified, but imagine just cutting off 50% of your customer base. That just, it seems so insane in that. And I think we live in interesting times where sort of your university place, your mortgage, your job interview is all decided by an algorithm. And that algorithm doesn't necessarily cater to all of us. This has real tangible consequences for businesses who risk producing products, services, and solutions that do not meet customer expectations or scale effectively. Now, as the role of technology becomes increasingly influential in our lives, and we've seen sort of how the last 6 months has really done so, the more we need to ensure tech works for all of us. If we don't do this, the tech will simply perpetuate the same biases and discriminatory attitudes that are present in society today. And we want our tech to be better than what we are, but we can't do that without diverse talent and inclusion. So I think diverse talent exists. It's everywhere if you look around, but companies first need to recognize that, and secondly, need to have a strategy for tapping into that. It can be hard sometimes to cut through all the noise surrounding the women in tech problem. You may have heard of that, especially if you are a woman in tech, as many of you will be joining this conference today. You don't want to feel like a token. You don't want to feel like your gender or your ethnicity has played a role in getting this job. You should just be good for the role that you are. But I think that businesses shouldn't lose sight of why getting more gender diversity really matters, which is why, you know, I've spoken about the business case and pose the statistics of why businesses need to do more. And I think, thankfully, many are acutely aware of the growing problem and have initiatives to turn the tide. But I think companies often work alone and they work in silos. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that we've worked out what we need diversity for, but how and where do we go from here? So in recent years, common workplace attitudes and I guess misconceptions about gender have been reshaped. We're talking about it a lot more, and in the UK particularly, there has been a push for positive progress. As a consequence, there are now more women and diverse people being employed within engineering and technology qualifications, with 1 million women now being employed in the UK in STEM sectors, which is a huge win, but it has taken so long to get here. I think entrenched biases and gender stereotypes can drive some away from pursuing a career in STEM. Now what we've got to do is, instead of working alone, companies working in silos, we need to work together to shift the balance and look at every stage of the pipeline, which is so crucial to attract girls and women into tech. And I think we have to strive to retain them and support the progression of women and diverse representatives throughout their career. So it's not just about the attraction and the recruitment of young people, it's about helping elevate women throughout their careers as well. And it's important that we bring men into the conversation. I think that's really, really key. I've put a really bold statement up on the slides if you can see it, and I've said we are holding back the next generation in learning about STEM and cyber. And I think there are two ways to combat this. The first is around educating the students, and the second is around changing perspectives of parents. On educating students, I think it's all about how they perceive tech and STEM skills. I read a wonderful example of a teacher who made their students at primary school draw what they thought a scientist looked like. And they all nearly drew a white man in a lab coat. The teacher then made the children draw themselves as the scientist, and that was able to show that, you know, anyone can be involved in science. And that's, I think, very, very true for all of the STEM disciplines. And I think from that, we need to prove to parents that tech is a good career path for their children. At techUK, we surveyed tech parents as part of kind of our work around automation and the future of work. And we found that the majority of parents agreed that university degrees will be less important in the future due to the rise of apprenticeships and vocational education in the UK. Yet a majority of parents wanted their child to go to university over any other route. I think we need to encourage parents to explore alternative pathways for their children and seriously consider becoming role models and amplifiers for what digital can do. For those of you who don't know, the UK tech sector is actually growing at 6 times the rate of the rest of the UK economy. This was pre-COVID. And since then, we've seen a huge jump in job adverts over the period from, I believe it's March to June, that Tech Nation had a report on, a 36% jump in job adverts. So even during this pandemic, we've seen that digital remains a solid career. And we know that digital we've worked on different reports and research about salaries within the digital and STEM sectors. So it's a high wage, high skill field, and we need to do more to encourage people to get into it. And I think this can be tough when tech and cybersecurity has a clear perception problem, you know, as demonstrated by my example with the lab coats. And I think it's important that we take perspective from what our international partners are doing. So the Open University did some great research with NASCOM, the Indian Tech Trade Association, about a part of India in which they have more women than men working in tech. And that's because the pathways into a tech career were really clearly defined from a young age. So it's like what we see with medicine or dentistry or optometry. You know what you have to do to get to becoming a doctor. You know that there are a certain amount of years and qualifications. That can be difficult with digital and STEM because the criteria is always changing. It's an ever-changing field. It moves a little bit faster, I think, when you're trying to specialize. But more women felt encouraged because to work in tech in that part of India because of the clear pathways that were outlined. Well, if you do an X qualification, you could do this. If you do Y, if you do a Y training course, you may be able to go into that, and more opportunities arose in that sense. I think with greater awareness of the rise of organizations in the UK, which I'm happy to kind of drop into the chat function after. So there are great initiatives doing a lot of work to improve gender diversity, in particular the Tech Talent Charter, which techUK is a founding signatory of, the WISE campaign, techUK. They're all working towards better access and promotion of STEM to girls and women. And I think if we work together and support those initiatives rather than, reinventing the wheel and redoing work that's already been done, we can work towards this. So I'm just going to provide an example of different initiatives that are being done to improve diversity in the cyber sector in the UK. So a stark sign of the lack of gender diversity in the cybersecurity industry is really shown at tech conferences, where women are in such a minority that they rarely have a place to queue for the loop. That's to have to wait for the toilet, unlike every other public event they attend. So there are queues for the toilets at all other places, but not at cyber conferences, someone noticed. And so in 2018, techUK helped launch the Queue for the Loot initiative, which is a series of events and online resources aimed at women in the cybersecurity sector. The initiative, which is spearheaded by Sean John of Microsoft, includes quarterly networking events for female cyber professionals to network, exchange, and find mentors. And we know from the previous speaker how important that networking and role model element is, and mentoring as well. The initiative not only looks to create a stronger network between women in cyber, but also to do more to encourage them to consider their options in the space. So often we hear of it a lot, of glass ceiling for women within the tech sector. So by talking and networking about the opportunities available, we can help elevate women in these roles. And the aim of the initiative is to increase the breadth of talent in our industry by engaging more women to join it. And a sign of success will be that when more women have to start queuing for the toilet at cybersecurity conferences, and that's why it's aptly named Queue for the Loot. The UK government has also created a new cybersecurity council and has set up a fund for training providers to bid up to £100,000 to work with employers and design training programs which retain a diverse range of individuals for a career in cybersecurity. I'm really excited to see how these programs progress to secure the next generation of talent. Another important partnership is sort of the collaboration between GCHQ and the National Cyber Security Centre, which is working with Girl Guiding, which is sort of like the Scouts in the UK but for young girls, working with Girl Guiding South West England, which is looking to bring cybersecurity as a topic to young girls. I think by encouraging young girls to learn about cyber with the introduction of this new badge, that a Girl Guiding badge will be created, can teach young women how tech can keep us safe. And I think it looks to sort of inspire the interest for the next generation for cyber skills. I think on a more broader level, when it comes to diversity and inclusion in the cyber sector, I think we need to stop thinking about diverse groups in isolation. Now, I'm not saying that blanket HR or human resources policies can be cut and pasted to different groups of people. We know that diversity and inclusion is incredibly broad. We're talking about gender here today, and partly those from diverse backgrounds, but there is race and ethnicity to consider, neurodiversity, persons with disabilities, a whole range of different kinds of things that make us different, And it would be foolish to suggest that a blanket HR policy can do all these things. But I think if you're an individual who is a woman who has a disability, and you find out that your prospective employer isn't doing a lot of work in the diversity and inclusion space, isn't doing more to make sure that the workplace is inclusive and intersectional, then you know that you're not going to get the support you need to thrive in that workplace. So why would you work there? Why would you stay there if you don't feel comfortable? So it's about retaining that talent as well. And I think being inclusive means being inclusive of all. I think that's a notion that people are finally coming around to. You know, in the past, it's clear that some voices have been neglected from considering cybersecurity as a place for them. But we all have a responsibility to support diversity and inclusion in whatever form it manifests. And I'm really thankful that these initiatives have been set up on a kind of a UK-wide basis to do so. I've also put another bold statement on the slide over there, if you can read it. I've said, in the workplace, existing practices can unintentionally exclude female talent. So we've spoken a little bit about what we need to do for the pipeline of talent when we're focusing on young girls. And now I think we're going to be moving on to that recruitment and attraction phase of the work that we talk about. And also, I guess, retaining that talent. One area that employers really need to look at, I think, is improving the attraction of women who are returning to work, after a break. Now, that can be through maternity leave, caring duties, whatever it may be. Taking a break within the tech industry and the digital sectors can be difficult, because when you come back after a year or two or even longer, things have changed. Tech moves at such a fast pace, and to combat the issues that anyone is facing, we've seen a real insight with returners programs. And what they are programs to help people who have those fantastic skills that the industry is looking for, and who've gained different skills during their break, to get back into the tech workforce, to ensure that they have the confidence and the capabilities to do well after returning from a career break. Now, techUK has created a returners hub. And since 2017, it's acted as a sort of one-stop shop for women looking to return to work. As the hub has expanded, techUK has encouraged anyone who is facing a barrier to re-entering the workforce, men, anyone else on the gender spectrum, to utilize the hub, which provides kind of free resources, application advice, and looks to training providers. We also have a list of our members who have specific returners programs, and those who are open to discussing unconscious bias training. So I see the value in unconscious bias training. However, when a business sort of enrolls individuals on this training, you don't come out of a half-a-day training and all your inherent prejudices are wiped. The training needs to happen repeatedly and throughout an employee's career to really enforce at home. One example of this kind of seniority position is that Colour in Tech, which is a not-profit working to do more for people from ethnic backgrounds in the UK. It shows that of the UK's top 16 tech companies, only 4 out of the 152 board positions were held by someone from an ethnic minority background, and 39 positions out of the 152 were held by women. I think these numbers tell a sad story. I think, I believe that a concentrated effort to improve gender diversity and gender balance at the entry level will be rewarded at the senior level as well. I think what some companies forget is that those, in particular women returning to work, make up considerable numbers. So, for example, PwC, another techUK member, found that addressing the career break penalty experienced by professional women could deliver an additional economic output of 1.7 billion a year, just by focusing on that one area of untapped talent that we can focus on. And I think what's important with these returners program and return to work programs is that it's important to listen to female employees when asking what they're asking for. Programs need to be created with women in mind, or those from diverse backgrounds. And I think the best way to do that is for women to create them. It's sort of a chicken and an egg situation. You can't have women. You can't look to attracting women to your workforce without putting priority on enabling the women that you do already have in the workforce. And I think that's why techUK has been a founding signatory of the Tech Talent Charter. And what the charter is it's a commitment by organizations to a set of undertakings that aims to create greater diversity in the tech workforce of the UK. Sort of one that better reflects the makeup of the population. And we've spoken previously about why that is so important. And I think that can't be done alone. Diversity and inclusion is not a single company issue, and the conversation is bigger than the sum of its parts. I think importantly about the Tech Talent Charter, to sign up, it's free. I encourage sort of all organizations to do so, and it may be that your organization is already a part of it. The charter states that all signatories must provide data on their own workforce each year, so that we can measure success and make more impactful, measurable changes as an industry for the future. Every year there is a report launched, and the report provides a snapshot of diversity in the UK. Now, the Tech Talent Charter previously focused on gender diversity, but since then it's expanded and it's become a lot more intersectional. It is an initiative that is partly government funded and partly industry funded. So really looking at that kind of collaboration aspect that I've been speaking about a lot today. I think now we have an opportunity to continue our focus on elevating the voices around us. I think by ensuring that women in senior positions are supported in their roles, and by creating diverse succession plans, we can make sure we can make this a sustainable pipeline of talent that promotes inclusion and builds a stronger digital future. In difficult times, as we currently are in, we witness the heavy reliance on scientists, technologists, and engineers to come up with solutions fast in order to support society. We've seen that. And we cannot do this successfully without diversity across the board. And I've put another bold statement up there, just in case people aren't sure of what my presentation has highlighted. Diversity isn't going to show up at your door. Diverse efforts are most successful when they are driven by a commitment from company leaders. The cybersecurity sector is open to all, and we simply need to get that message across. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. I'd be happy to take any questions from the chat function.
Hi, Nimmi. Okay, so we got a couple of questions. So cybersecurity has always been the hoodie-wearing guy. How do you change the mindset to a hoodie-wearing girl?
I think, for one thing, hoodies are something that can be quite difficult to rectify, especially because cybersecurity has such an image in the media of, sort of like the kind of IT hackers and coding and things like that. The way we do this is by showcasing the different people that work in the cybersecurity sector. So really highlighting the role models within industries and showcasing to people that they have people like them within the industry. So, for instance, running profiles on those who, it's a woman in cybersecurity who previously was a pharmacist, for instance, someone who took a cybersecurity course after being an executive assistant and made that career change simply by doing a course. I think it's important that we highlight those key figures in our organizations that have done that to show to the talent pool that we're looking to market to, that anyone can work into cybersecurity. So changing that narrative, as previously spoken, we've got to educate parents, and the way to do that is by showcasing that there are different people within the industry. I bet you if I asked you to name sort of 5 men in tech, you could probably give me a good answer. But if I asked you to name 5 women in tech or 5 people from ethnic minority backgrounds, you probably couldn't do that. So I think we all have a responsibility to do that.
Okay, so next question is, can you force companies to hire women in cybersecurity, say maintain a 10:6 ratio, and probably enforce a penalty for not hiring them and such things?
So I think that's a challenging question. And I think for organizations who are doing really, really bad when it comes to diversity in their company, they should look to doing all women shortlists. And what that is that it's a shortlist of all of the applicants that applied and only interviewing women for that job and ultimately giving the role to a woman. That is an extreme method, and I think it's for companies who are really at the bottom bar of when it comes to diversity and inclusion, who don't have a diversity and inclusion strategy, and who are looking to do more to attract women very quickly. I think for most of us and most of our companies, our HR teams and senior leadership teams have that kind of D&I, diversity and inclusion strategy, so they know that they need to do more. And what could work well is doing really simple things like changing the language in job adverts to making sure that the language is inclusive. Doing things like hidden CVs, so you don't look at the name of the person, and it's blind CV, so you don't know the gender of the person you're hiring. You can hire that way to make sure you're truly being inclusive. But I think putting penalties on on organizations that don't hire enough women is quite drastic, and I think only should be used in the extreme methods. In the UK, we have an initiative that's called the Gender Pay Gap Reporting, and what that is that every year since sort of 2018, companies with over 250 employees have to report the gender wage gap in their companies. Now, in the UK, it's illegal to pay a man and a woman different salaries for the same job, but that's illegal, But women tend to be in less senior roles, so you can tell about how much women are earning in comparison to men within a company. Now, since then, we've seen that kind of public-facing data has been picked up by the media. It's shared throughout companies in the organization, and you can see that companies are now thinking a little bit more, why is our gender pay gap so bad? Why are men earning more than women in our organization? What can we do to rectify that? Do we need more women on boards? Do we need to make sure that women feel like there's progression in our organization? Do we need to do a reevaluation of exit interviews? So I think there are a number of different things to do before you hit the kind of, penalties should be applied. There are a range of different options, and the problem with diversity inclusion is that there's not one solution that fits all. There are a series of small increment things that you can do to build an inclusive culture within your company, so that by the end of your process, you don't need all women shortlists. You just don't, because you are attracting and retaining women and those from diverse backgrounds at something that happens quite naturally.
Okay, last question is, in your workplace, how do you encourage diversity?
In our workplace, so since the sort of Black Lives Matter movement, we've done a lot of internal reviewing. So in our workplace, we have sort of, I believe we have more women than men in my workplace. We're a small organization, techUK, we're sort of around 60 to 80 people. And I think the focus has been on the capabilities of a person and what they could do, what they can become. So for instance, I've been in this role 1.5 years, but previously for sort of 6 months, I was a program assistant, and I was able to apply for a role and internally hire. Now that has happened to 3 other women in the company before me, and 1 since I've been at the organization. So it's a case of, hiring internally for senior positions, because you know that these women are capable, and you know that they can do more with what you give them. I think it's about showcasing and really celebrating the people that prove themselves.
Okay, thank you. That is a very nice answer, how more companies like techUK need to look internally before looking at an external source to hire for a senior management position. Thank you so much, Nimmi, for that very enlightening speech. So thank you, be safe, and we look forward to having you for our future conferences as well.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.